to get started. We're waiting for Guru to make his epic arrival. And yeah, so tune in, tune in. We are going live. We have a very special guest. We are very excited. So stay tuned with us.
Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. We're getting this technical stuff down, and we're getting it a lot better. This is Rasengola the Farai.
And I'm Jenna, and welcome to
People Talking Kali. We got a great guest here today. Sensei E of Shin Kali is live with us, live out of Japan right now. What's going on, Sensei?
Good morning, everyone from Tokyo.
Yeah. What time is it over there, good brother? What time is it over there, Sensei?
Now it's 9 a.m.
All right. Okay.
So I'm waking up and having my coffee and having a great Sunday morning with you guys. So thank you for having me. It's such an honor. So thanks so much.
Thank you for coming on. We've had the good pleasure of meeting Sensei E and his entire group. Shout out to Sensei, Brother Rod, and the entire Shin Kali group. With Jen and I were able to travel to the Philippines. Shin Kali and Sensei E and his crew were there both times, and they're serious business. Your entire group, Sensei, they just carry themselves with respect, with honor, with dignity. They're tough. They spar hardcore. And they pay great attention to detail. That's just a testament of the great instructor that you are, as well as Brother Rodney. So thank you for taking the time to be on the show.
No, I thank you for that. I missed a few of them, and I look forward to catching up with you guys again, hopefully next year.
That's the plan, man. That's Jenna's and I plan. So Sensei, all right, let's get started. Why Shin Kali? What is Shin Kali? What does that mean? And how did that name come to represent your group?
Well, okay, I always believe, and I tell the guys all the time, Shin Kali is just the name of the school. It's not the style that we do. We do Filipino martial arts. We also do jiu-jitsu. But specifically within the name, when we started, okay, I'll give a brief history. I think it was maybe 2007. The original name was Tokyo Eskrima Club. And I had started it just near my house at the park, close by park. And practice, and one person kind of knew what I was doing. And then afterwards, another person came, and it actually started growing. So when I would go to the park and practice, it was more of like a social group. You know, if you were from a different style, if you had some kind of, if you did JKD, or if you did Arnis, if you did Eskrima, if you did Kali, just kind of get together and exchange, and then practice. So that's actually how it all began. And then afterwards, the people in the group, they said they really wanted to learn it. And I was like, oh man, I have a job. It's kind of difficult for me. So then I was like, okay, well, hence I'll start teaching. So I started teaching the guys. And one of the important things was, kind of being associated with someone, So later, as our group kind of grew, this is how we met Shian Kit, or Tuan Kit. Shout out to all the Tuans. My love and respect to all of them. And I have incredible stories with everyone. So right. You'll hear it along the way. Mm-hmm. But so to go back to the name, sorry, for example, Shin Kali, the name, it comes from, it's in Japanese called Shingari. Mm-hmm. So when two Japanese armies would fight, and one side was losing, some of the guys would volunteer And the action of volunteering was called Shingari. So they would hold the line until, let their friends and other people escape to come back with reinforcements.
Okay.
So a friend of mine, when I was kind of deciding on the name of the school, he said, "Why don't you name it Shingari? It's a very strong meaning. It's very nice." So Shingari actually means kind of like stand for your brother.
Wow.
And I thought it was one of the nicest things, like stand for your brother. So that's why, and all of us in Shinkali, we kind of keep that line,
Wow.
I would go first. If not me, then Sensei Roddy. If not Sensei Roddy, then the next. And if not
Makes
the next,
sense.
we would always like kind of hold the line. So it's the name of the school, Shingari. But since it sounded so close to Kali, it was a play on words. I took the G out, put a K, took the R out, put an L, and then hence the name Shinkali.
Wow.
So, say for example, thank you for wearing the shirt, which is great.
Hey, we got this direct from Sensei E in the PI, so I have to represent it, honor it. Wait till let me show the back on this here. Hold on a second. I got a rep. I'm doing some branding for you, Sensei. I love the shirts, and we're so proud of to represent you here today. So yeah, keep going, sir.
So the first kanji, Shin, by itself means like pure or true. And then the other kanji, Gari, means like your goal or target. So if you actually put it together, it's kind of like strike true or achieve your goal. And then also Shinkali, meaning hold the line. So that's our name, and again, I thought it was cool. Shinkali is the name of the school, but it's not the style. Love practicing Pakiti Tertia. I think it's a fantastic art.
Well, yeah. How did you? Let me. I should have asked you this. I jumped forward. How did you get started in martial arts? What was your journey that led you to Pakiti? And what were you? And then please pick up where you were about to leave off, or what you were saying about you love Pakiti, and it sounded like you were about to say, however. Yeah.
So originally, I started my first journey was Vietnamese Jiu-Jitsu with Professor V, and then now the new inheritor, Professor David James, Master Mohammed, Master Cirillo, Sensei Scott. So shout out to the Vietnamese Jiu-Jitsu family. Still love you, and that's how I started.
This was in New York.
In New York, in Park Place, just across from World Trade Center. So I used to go there right after school, and I trained. So that's how I got my first start. Then in the mid-90s, I came to Japan, and Professor Lee had passed away in 99 while I was in Japan. And always remembered Professor Lee's teachings. And I wanted to continue more within the FMA side, because when we did Vietnamese Jiu-Jitsu, it was a blend of the two, of course, Japanese martial arts and then Filipino arts. So I wanted to go more towards the Filipino martial arts. So to go back, so when I started training in the park and practicing my arnis, and then we had the little group Tokyo Screamer Club, and then people wanted to learn it, then that's how we became Shinkali. So, and yeah, so then that's where we are today, which is great.
So in the park initially, you were just doing, it was Vietnamese Jiu-Jitsu that...
Yes, it was. So I would do all my arnis 12 dimensions, empty hand dimensions, stick defense dimensions. And, people would say, oh, I know that. But then, someone was from like a JKD background.
Yeah.
Back then, Filipino martial arts was not as popular as it is now in Japan. There were small groups here and there. I mean, a lot of grandmasters they were actually here in Japan back then. Guru Dan Santo was here, I think in the 80s. Sifu Rick Fay was also here in the 80s. So JKD is quite big in Japan. But other groups, it was hard to find, you know. Later on, it started growing, the popularity started growing. So, which is great. I mean, even now, there's more groups in Japan, different styles. So it's wonderful to see people liking FMA.
But do you feel you were part of that movement in Japan to help kind of bring some more FMA to that scene?
Maybe, I don't know. I like to invite all my teachers here. So shout out to 2-1 Philip. He was one of the first 2-1s that came to Japan, actually.
Wow.
When we had him here, he was the very first 2-1. And when with 2-1 being here, I remember we were very small. The group was very, very small when he first time came. And, you know, little by little, it kind of grew. So, yeah, I think having all our teachers visit us and support us, and people seeing that we supported our teachers, I think it contributed to some of the popularity and some of the growth in Japan. So, and I look forward to it growing more. So,
how'd you get into PTK from the Shin Kali growing and the VRNs, and how did it get to where now you're inviting Tuhan Phil to come out there?
So the very, very first step, when we first started, I was teaching in Shibuya, and there was a group, Sensei Romeo. Also, I give my shout outs to Sensei Romeo. Sensei Romeo is from Modern Arnis, and he had came down to visit us because he heard about a group practicing FMA in Shibuya in Tokyo. So when he came down, got a chance to meet him, wonderful, wonderful guy. And in fact, he was the person that I first approached to become our Shihan, to be our chief instructor. And at the time, he still does. He was very active in Aikido. So he was like, "Oh, Eain, it's okay." So I said, "Okay, no problem." One of his close friends, when he was learning Aikido back in the Philippines, was Shihan Kit.
Wow.
So Shihan Kit was in contact with him, and he was coming to Japan. And Sensei Romeo made the introduction to us to Shihan Kit. And then that's how we first time ever got the opportunity to be part of Pikiji Tersha. Now, when I was back in New York, when I was even learning Vietnamese Jiu-Jitsu, you know, I heard of Pikiji Tersha. And at that time, back in the 80s, you couldn't just walk in and say, I want to learn Pikiji Tersha. You had to be introduced. It was that kind of very closed. So when Shihan Kit came over, of course, I already had known of Pikiji Tersha. And he asked me, you know, Eain, who are you with? And I was like, well, you know, my teacher had passed away, and, you know, it's just only us. So, you know, he said, well, do you want to be part of Pikiji Tersha? And right away, because I already knew the history, like, yes. I kind of rushed right into it. So
respect to Tuhan Kit for that. Yes, sir.
So, and a lot of the 2-1s that we met, it was all from Shihan Kit. And shout out to Shihan Kit. Love you. I know he's over in, I think in Indonesia now. Shihan Kit and Lekang Val.
That's right.
So Shihan Kit, he was the start of it all for us. And he's still like our kind of big brother, you know, kind of always kind of guiding us. So that's why I always use the term Shihan for him. So he's like someone that I highly respect and that I have wonderful times with. I can have chats with him and know a lesson as we're chatting. I could be just learning from what he'll be telling me as we chat. So I said, okay, I'm going to practice that. So it's fantastic. So Shin,
he's a great influence. I just had to just say, I don't want to interrupt. He is a true great influence on many Kali instructors and warriors. And Jenna and I having the fortune to train with him just a couple of times, I have to just second. He's a great instructor. Didn't mean to interrupt you, Sensei.
Oh, no worries, no worries. I know, I totally agree. I mean, Shin Kid, after we had him over, I mean, we kind of got associated together. Then he introduced us to Tuan Philip, and then Tuan Philip was the first Tuan to ever come over to Japan, and then that's how we met Tuan Philip, and then it followed. Then it was Tuan Ramel, then it was Kuya Doug Makaida, and then Tuan Jared, and then all the Tuans. We were very fortunate and grateful and honored that to learn from them and to grow and to have their support. So that's why my love to all the Tuans always.
Yeah, that's an awesome lineup. I mean, I think anyone who is currently training PTK and is knowledgeable about the system would definitely wish they could, be even a fly on the wall for a lineup like that. So was it a big transition from like training, different forms of minor arnis and now doing PTK? Was it a big transition, or did you feel like you were more familiar with what was going on?
Well, Guru Nagola and I were actually talking about this earlier. A lot of people say Eskrima, Arnis, Kali are all the same. Some people might not like me for saying this, but in my opinion, they're all respectfully different. Mm-hmm. Like Japan, you have karate, aikido, judo, kendo. They all come from Japan, but respectfully, they're all different in their own way. So Eskrima, Arnis, Kali, they all come from the Philippines, but each one of them are special. Each one of them have their own identity. So even when I was learning in Vietnamese Jiu-Jitsu, there are things that we did within Arnis that is different from Pikiti Tersha. There's some relation you can pick up on, but combinations, principles within the weapon, they all have their own uniqueness to it, their own specialness to it. I tell the students all the time, every martial arts is great. You can do kickboxing, taekwondo, karate, FMA. They're all fantastic. What's important with all of them, what's special about them, it all helps you become a better person. Mm-hmm. So any style that helps you better yourself today than yesterday is a great martial arts. So, I mean, when someone says, oh, my art is better than your art, you both got to the same place. You wanted to be better than yesterday. So, I mean, there's actually no need, for that kind of putting down of different styles. So every art is great, and just even with that same approach, every instructor, every Chuhan, they're fantastic. I mean, you could see bits and pieces of times when they learned it with GT that, that went back 10 years, went back 20 years, and, to say one Chuhan, another Chuhan, they're different, but, I rather learn from them both, support all the Chuans there. I mean, Tuan Jared, Tuan Philip, Tuan Nonoy, Tuan Ramel, Shian Kid, Tuan Eric, which is going to be in New York very soon. So have a fantastic time with Tuan Eric.
That's right. They're all, like we were saying, a piece of a larger puzzle. I don't know if you want to elaborate more on that, but
so one of the things, Tuan Leslie, also fantastic. Love learning and training with Tuan Leslie. He said, he put it in a way that I really loved. he said, when you were a kid, you remember getting a puzzle box with a picture on it, and then you would put the pieces together in a puzzle to match the picture. He said, Pikiti Tertia is like the puzzle box without the picture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you would get all these pieces and you would have to find that picture yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually stuck with me in many ways. Each Tuon is part of that big picture of Pikiti Tertia, you know. So to support your Tuons, to learn from them, to have that opportunity to get that knowledge it's a blessing.
So just to connect all this, so Jenna was saying, was there a difference with the modern Chinese Kali, and you felt that there was, okay, you noticed some differences. So in those early days, you know, being exposed to now, you realize you're saying, I want to get contact with as many Tuhans as possible. I want to put the pieces of the puzzle together. What do you feel was your learning process? Mm-hmm. For example, I know in the beginning, I'm just taking notes, and then eventually it's like, all right, I have to organize these notes in some way. Do you feel you were saying, all right, I want to learn a more Dose Methodos approach. I want to learn a more Tri-V approach. I want to learn. How was that learning process in the beginning? Would you, if you could recall?
In the beginning was step by step. You know, even now, the way I look at it now as to when I looked at it before has changed. I'll probably look back at this video 5 years from now or 10 years from now, and then, you know, my feelings has also changed. But in the beginning, when I was first learning Pikiti, yeah, it was tough. I mean, you see a different approach, you see a different way. There's some relation, but you know, for me, I had to take it like literally step by step, because I couldn't see then what I see now. For example, like Shin Kit at the time was learning quite a lot under Tuan Ramel. And then, of course, Tuan Ramel and GT, that was like, you know, more Tri-V focused. Mm-hmm. And so Shin Kit was more Tri-V focused. Then when Tuan Philip came, was more Dos Methodos focused. So to see the two very early when we first started was very confusing. You know, like, oh, okay, that's Tri-V, but what's Tri-V? Okay, oh, that's Dos Methodos. What's Dos Methodos? So at the time, I couldn't grasp, you know, the difference between the two. Then, as more 2 months came, then you could start actually piecing it together. So, so now when I teach, if I'm teaching the Dos Methodos side of Tuan Philip, which Tuan Philip's knowledge of Dos Methodos is incredible. I love his approach. You know, I will, you know, I'll teach that exactly as Dos Methodos. Then I'll look at something of Tuan Ramel or Tuan Leslie, Tuan Jared on the Tri-V, and then I'll teach it exactly as they taught it on the Tri-V. Then in between the two, between Dos Methodos and Tri-V, you know, we all kind of experience it where the instructors say, okay, go and flow, make it your own journey. So every student would piece that together, and then they would be on their own journey themselves. You know, like I would be on my own journey to try to piece those together. But when, in the beginning, it had to be step-by-step Dos Methodos. It had to be step-by-step Tri-V, you know, and then later on, little by little, you could start putting them together. But so to go back on the question or the answer you were asking before, step by step. It was a hard transition, but in time, you know, you stick through it, you'll start to see it. So,
right, yeah, I think that a lot of people can attest to learning PTK that way. You know, and you know, I definitely am a fan of the videos that you have disclosed on social media and so forth. The beautiful thing about them is that a lot of it is like, I don't think we've seen it too fast. It's been usually slow mechanics, and they're so meticulously done, and it looks so clean, and everyone looks clean. You wouldn't know who was advanced. You wouldn't know who was a beginner just because everyone is so meticulously clean and they're also going slow. Is that kind of how the tone you set while you're teaching, as opposed to like, other schools where they're like application, do it hard and fast? Like, what's your kind of strategy?
Well, for me, yeah, every pediatrician practitioner, you can see there's a specific uniqueness about them, or like we learn thrust slash consistently,
Right.
and I guess I'm pretty adamant about teaching things exactly how I learned it.
Mm.
So, for example, if I learned it from Shion Kit a certain way, I will do it exactly like Shion Kit. If I learned it from one of the Tuans a certain way, I'll do it exactly like the Tuan. But then every Tuan says, okay, make it your own. So when I teach, I wouldn't do my own just quite yet. I would teach it exactly as I learned it from my Tuans. And then after that, I'll tell the students, okay, we learned it this way. That's your building block. And then from that point on, we'll explore it. I think if I was to start with a flow or start with an application without giving a base, the students will kind of get lost, or I kind of shortcut the students' experience of how I learned it. So I don't want to give them something that I think works.
Right.
I want to give them something that they think works or what they feel works for them. So even in my videos when I teach, I I do admit I don't move in a certain way because my knees are quite shot. They're damaged quite a lot, and so you'll see a pediatrician person moving. They'll move very fast and side to side, and very quickly, and then you'll see some of the you'll see me kind of just slowly make my way little by little. It's not because I don't want to do it. It's just I'm kind of injured. So, but I get the students to do the movements exactly the same, from all the footwork, from all the strikings that within support of the footwork. I believe footwork is one of the most important things, specifically in weapon-based martial arts.
Yeah.
I tell the guys all the time, if you don't want to get hit, move.
That's right. Well, like Jenna was saying, we observe such a fine attention to detail in the training and in videos. But then when it is time for the sparring, your team is live. Everybody's bringing it, and I mean, and I'm saying this with love. Like, you guys roll deep. Like maybe if when Jenna and I, we're representing Philly. Sometimes it's just a few students, but the Shin Kali unit, you guys roll deep. Everybody spars. Is that part of? Would you say that's part of your culture in the group too?
Yes. When we would go to gatherings, we have quite a process to go to the gatherings. There were some guys who've been with us for 3 years, 5 years, and we never invited them to the gathering. Because we always knew when we would go to the gathering, you would go and learn the first couple of days within the weekend, and then towards the end you would fight. You would execute the things you learned at the end. So one side you have a school where you don't want anyone to get injured, and you're responsible for them. So, and then there's the other side where there's students that want to explore, or they want to spar. They want to see that that technique works for them. So you also have to get them ready. So whenever we were on our way to the gathering, knowing that there was always fighting at the end, I would prepare the guys months before we would go. So, for example, if it was April was the gathering, and the year before or 6 months prior, who's interested? Some would say yes. Some would like to go, but they're not ready, and we'll say, you have to get ready for that. And the ones who did say yes, as soon as the year started in January, then we would spar. We would spar all the way through January for the whole month. February, we would take a little bit of a break. March, we would heal up. And then April, we would be there. So I would teach a basic class. And then the guys who were coming with us to the gathering, okay, put on your sparring gear. And we would go at it all the way through. Boom, 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 boom. For the whole month, getting ready to end up being at the gathering in April.
Wow.
And then the guys who weren't ready, they would come with us. They would have the whole year to prepare, and then would come with us the following year. So that's why when you saw some of the guys in Shinkali, they were like, oh, this is my first time in the gathering, but I've been with Shinkali for like 3 years. And we would kind of,
they have to earn it.
Earn their way, and then kind of build their way to make their way to the gathering. So even when, I promote the guys here in Japan under Shinkali, we would, this is something I worked out with Shin, we would actually match the ranks in the Philippines to us here in Japan.
Okay.
So from a yakan would be like a white belt here. And then if someone was being promoted in Japan, then we would put the recommendation in to Shian Kit, and then he would put the recommendation over at the gathering, and then they would get their promotion and fight for the promotion when we got there. So, for example, all the guys who would go for their Lakan Guru, they would be with us for 3 years, 4 years.
Right.
Finally get to the gathering.
That's right.
Finally fight, and then finally get promoted under the whole organization with everyone. So that's why every time we went, they've been with us for 2 years. They fought. We prepared them to arrive, and then we announced them getting their promotion. But if they weren't there the year before, it's like, oh, we didn't see this guy here last year. He's getting promoted to Lakan Guru. Well, in truth, he's been with us for 3 or 4 years.
That's right.
And finally, he was able to come to the Philippines and then fight. And then, of course, when they fought, you see them, oh, wow, these guys have been fighting for a while, because they were fighting here in Japan for quite some time. So that's how we had it structured out.
It seems like that keeps a high standard also. People know they have to rise to a certain level to even be ready to be invited to a gathering. And it makes sure that you have that reputation, that legacy is of your school is maintained. Now, the guys who are native to Japan, how is it for them to train a Filipino martial art, knowing that there's so much rich Japanese martial arts in their own bloodline or heritage or culture, or doing my best to be non-offensive here? Do they face any, I know you said now FMA is so much more received, but I would imagine coming from, such a rich history in Japan. How is that for them? Just out of
I think in Japan, you have, of course, incredible background of martial arts from karate, judo, jiu-jitsu, kendo. So many different variations within the Japanese martial arts, and it's wonderful. I think here in Japan, you have they're also accepting of different styles. You have Krav Maga, for example, Systema, kickboxing. I think that spirit of martial arts in general, it is special. I mean, if you look back at when Pride or K1, inviting the world, to compete, it's very welcoming. But as well as it's very welcoming, it's also very strong in that tradition, that goes back, hundreds, thousands of years. So for us, when we're doing, Kali or FMA, it's also welcoming, but I think there's a special thing also within FMA where, you know, all of us, we have that from our teachers saying, okay, flow, go out and make it your own.
Yeah.
I think that expression is quite special, and a lot of the Japanese students, you know, I think that's quite something, that appeals, or, that kind of, be yourself,
Yeah.
find yourself. You know, if you're doing a kata and it has to be a certain way, granted, yes, there's one way of holding on to that tradition, keeping that spirit of what it was back then, but then taking it in, okay, now how do I make it something within my own expression? So, I support that here in what we do in Shinkali. I'll teach them exactly how the 2-1s taught me, but then also support, like, okay, make it yours.
Yeah.
Just like my teacher said, okay, make it yours, Eain, and you're on that journey to explore it. So I think that's the appealing part.
That's part of the appeal
Right,
there.
right. And speaking of your student base, I had the honor of also sparring. I think it was like Uncle Yohei, and I want to mispronounce his
Yes.
name. But when he sparred me, I'm sure Sensei Rad's long lecture to him before played a part, but he had the utmost respect. And I haven't experienced anything other than respect from you and your students. And so, I'm a little curious. I know that like most of us, like especially as inner city teachers, instructors, we deal with like we call it the asshole element, where people are like always challenging or antagonistic towards what you're trying to do because, they don't understand, or, we also live in a city. People just are just, through and not mentally stable. So, but I just sense a high culture of respect. Do you have to deal with that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's universal, worldwide, school wise.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have people. I don't think that stuff works. I think that stuff is choreographed, or my muscle is bigger than your muscle, kind of thing. But now I remember when you were there, and you came up to me and was like, "Oh, Sensei,
Yes.
I really like to spar. It's my first time, and I want to try." And you did fantastic, by the way.
Thank you.
Incredible, really great.
Thank you.
And Lakanguro Yohei, who's right now in Canada, and shout out to if he's listening.
Shout out to him.
Yes.
Fantastic student, and he's actually one person that I hope to see grow in learning Kali more. Hopefully, he'll be back in Japan soon. But I remember, we're very big on 4 walls.
Yes.
Myself
I see
specifically.
it. Yeah.
I love and my 4 walls, again, it's in reference, and it's from 2-1 Philip. 2-1 Philip does the 4 walls with the diamond step on the center line. And I that's why I always have high respects and love for 2-1 Philip, because I love his approach towards Bikini, and the manner that he fights himself with Bikini. So when I teach the guys 4 walls, we do it exactly as 2-1 Philip had showed me. And then you kind of go on that center line and focus. So if you notice with all the Shinkali guys, it's that bang, 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 4 walls, 4 walls, 4
Right.
walls.
Right.
Now, in Bikini, they say there's no such thing as blocking. Everything is an attack. And it's true. If your 4 walls is there, in truth, you're not really blocking the weapon. You're attacking the hand.
That's right.
That that's holding the weapon. So if he swung the stick or swung the weapon, it would be that little short strike right in front of me that I'm aiming for their hand, or I'm aiming for their forearm. I'm not aiming for that weapon at all.
Right.
So, but of course, when we do the four walls, we practice it, weapon to weapon. But it's my weapon to that person's hand.
Yeah.
So we get into a lot of sparring sessions sometimes, and then some of the students like, "Oh, Sensei, you hit my hand. My thumb is hurting," or something like that. Like, no, it just be my four walls. You're the one who swung, and my stick was right where it's supposed to be.
Well, seeing you guys spar live a number of times, one of the things I find that's effective about it is, you're changing the angle of their initial strike. And then even how you guys, I've seen two examples. I don't know their names, but it's kind of going from four wall to four wall. But even more, I think that's right. I've seen you and Sensei Rod spar. How you go from the four wall to then your follow up strikes is just so fast. You change the angle of the initial strike with the four wall, and then you're following through with something really quick. It catches people off guard. It looked very effective.
Actually, that goes into the contradas. If you look at the contradas, and again, forgive me, Tuan Philip, I'll be mentioning you a lot. You are
he's huge.
I love. So there's so Tuan Philip showed us the 12 contradas. There's 12 of them, and you can apply any of the contradas from any of the four walls. So picking one of the 12 out of the four walls is you'll see us do, you have your broken strikes, your fluid strikes.
Yeah.
If I'm going fluid, if I'm going broken, and if I wanted to change into one of the contradas, we will go in and out of them.
Yeah.
Where my stick would be, if it's high, who knows, I might go into contradas to a sequitas, a contradas to an abecedario. If my stick went low, it could be a contradas to a numerado. So, and then I go back up and do a sequitas, and then back to an alfabeto, back to a contradas, or then I might go into a tri-V, and then it might turn into a sabayan. So all these things, again, I didn't see it before, but then now you'll start to see it like more and more training with all the 2-1s. So, and those are the things when the 2-1 say, okay, go and explore it. So whenever we learn something from 1-2-1, and then we knew it was one fundamental base, then we went out and explored it. Then we would explore the 12 metodos for the tri-V, go back to a tri-V and go back to 12 metodos. Find out where we were from a single strike, and then can I apply a sequitas here? Or the sequitas is too long, maybe I'll go into a tri-V here. So that's why you'll see, me and Sensei Raidi or Sensei Nico or Lakanguro Yohei, we'll play with it, But the initial lesson is what we learn from our 2-1s. But then that's that fun part. Okay, go find yourself, go explore it. I'll see the 64, for example.
Yeah.
People will do the 64, same 8 categories of the 64, which relates to the 12 metodos, and they would pick different lines. Tuan Philip will pick a center line. Shanti will pick an outside line. It's still a 64, but they'll pick different lines of attack. And then so I said, okay, well, let's explore that. Do 64 on the center line. Do 64 on a 45 line to the left. Do a 64, 45 to the right. Do 64 on a 180 back or 90 to the side with a side step. Do a 64 crashing. Do a 64 grappling portion of it. Do a 64 into numerado. Do 64 into an alfabeto. Do 64 into a sequitas or into a florete. So all these things you can go in and out.
That's the bridging.
Yeah. So.
The bridging and the connecting. So when you say do a 64, you wouldn't run through the whole 64 attacks. You would run through, like you said, one of those 8 breakdowns of the 64 attacks.
Yes. Like Tuan Philip would tell me stories, of the 64 where it's actually running forward.
Wow.
Just straight going through, running down the gym. So I would teach the guys, let's do the 64 running down a straight line.
Wow.
Do 64 running down a straight line and break off 45 to the right, break off 45 to the left, do 64, and then when you get to the order sign at the final end, do a side step and break out, off to the side, So, and it, people will say, "Oh, that's not the original way." The original way is those 8 parts that refer to parts of the 12 métodos. That's the original way.
Mhm.
How you execute it or how you explore it, that's the fun part. That's the part where, like any of the drills that we do with Sabayan, Call the Mama, the Caso Tertia, or any of those things, you want to explore it.
That's
So, so if you did Sabayan in front of the person, do Sabayan off to the side of the person, do Sabayan and go around the back of the person, do Sabayan on your knees, do Sabayan on one knee, do Sabayan, on your back or rolling to your side. It's still the Sabayan, but you never know where you'll be. You never know, how they attack. But some people say, "Oh, it's done this way." It's
a concept.
it's a journey.
Yeah, that's why for us, that's what, that's the understanding of what it means, that it's not techniques. These are concepts that are to be explored. You know what I mean? It's a template. And actually it's a Tuhan Kit and Tuhan Rommel were the first that I actually heard them calling it platforms and flatforms and templates, these ideas for us to work off of and progress. And then that's how we can kind of express it.
And that is actually building, the mechanics, because, the beauty of like the Doce Methodist in its time was that it was building strong technique in people who may or may not have a foundation in what they were doing. And so the technique and the cleanliness that we see from some of the older Tuhans, and older, I mean, who've been around longer. And so their technique is so clean. It's almost like, I think the first time anyone sees a Tuhan do anything, you're like, whoa, it looks nothing like what I'm doing. And it's because of the technique building. So doing, different drills that are a part of Tri-V in, different ways and trying to manifest it differently is building technique and the precision that it takes to do more advanced applications. And so I think it's invaluable that you're doing it that way.
All right, Sensei, quick on the spot. Difference between 12 Methodist and Tri-V. Go. The $1 million question.
The teaching approach.
Yeah.
When we had Tuan Leslie here, he shed some light on the difference between 12 Métodos and Tri-V for us. And I found it like incredible. It was great. So shout out to Tuan Leslie. When Tuan Leslie, I had to talk with Tuan Leslie, and he shared it with the students. When you had the 12 Métodos, you had those building blocks: first Métodos, second Métodos, third Métodos, fourth. And those building blocks were like, okay, you did all the first one, now you'll go to the second one. And that was maybe the teaching manner of the 12 Métodos. Then the Tri-V, it wasn't that kind of building blocks. It was, well, Tuan Leslie, put it where it was vertical. So you would go from beginner to advanced on that vertical kind of approach. And then you would little by little put in some of the things from the 12 Métodos. So for me, the difference between the two was the teaching approach.
Yes.
And the 12 Métodos way, you had the building blocks.
The nuts
in
and
the Tri-V
bolts.
way, you had this more vertical linear line. So it would go from one beginner to advanced technique, and then the 12 Métodos would kind of fill in the gaps along the way.
Yeah.
So I had that great conversation with Tuan Leslie about it, and it put a whole different perspective for me in understanding the difference between Tri-V and 12 Métodos. So,
hey, let me know if I'm wrong. This literally just popped into my head when we're talking. I'm a school teacher, right? And so when they're teaching like math, for example, you teach addition, subtraction, and multiplication, and division, and then, carrying over, and then remainders and fractions. I kind of like would see that process is more like a Dose way. And then there's another style where it's like, all right, we're gonna build a house, so we're gonna build a car, and this is the math that we need to do this project right here. And then that's a different kind of learning approach because you're actually getting hands-on building something right away. And you're learning the math for it right in that moment, as opposed to this first this, and then we'll get to that building process maybe later on. That's kind of how I kind of see it too. I don't know if that makes sense.
It's exactly that. Very true. Exactly like that. I mean, say for example, you take, like you said, math.
Yeah.
I could teach you 1 + 1 = 2. Or I could say it's 2, but find out why it's 2.
There it is. Yeah, right.
And both ways are great.
Yeah.
And both of them help you. You could take one like step by step. You could take one and like, okay, I have to think of it myself.
Right.
So you're absolutely right. It's just that same way with like Doce Metodos and Try V. Both are fantastic. Both teaching ways are great. Both kind of go hand in hand. I mean, some people will say, "Oh, I only do this," or "I only do that," but it's Bikini.
That's right.
Bikini.
That's right. Just real quick, man. We got people tuning in. We got Smoke Legend from DC, New York City. I don't know who that is in reality, but that's their name. I think that's colleague Doug from Texas. Salute, brother Doug. Morgan from Citadel Combat Arena. He actually commented on when we were talking about the Japanese and Filipino culture. He was saying hearing GT talk so much about how the Japanese occupied the Philippines. It's great to hear the Japanese now more receiving. I don't know if you got to see his comment. And we got Royce from Nomad, and we also got Steve Roy Ellison. We want to thank you guys. Got any questions for Sensei E? Feel free to ask, because Jen and I are we're gonna keep on going. You know what I'm saying? We got a few more topics of conversation. Sensei, why the red geese?
So again, when I first started, it was Vietnamese Jiu-Jitsu. So in Vietnamese Jiu-Jitsu, there was 3 colors. There was the black, yellow, and red. And when I had started, I was in the black gi in Vietnamese Jiu-Jitsu. So we wear the Jiu-Jitsu gi in kind of homage to my lessons and my training in Vietnamese Jiu-Jitsu.
Beautiful.
A lot of people are like, oh, they do an FMA, but they're wearing Japanese gi, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu gi.
Right.
And it's in homage to Professor V. So there are a lot of techniques that when I learned from Professor V where, takedowns and, pulling on the gi, So it's quite a pity, someone will come in a nice Adidas dry fit and then, you kind of rip it and you're like, oh. So I encourage the guys, wear something that, when I grab you, when I throw you, when I lock you, this is your training gear at least.
Right.
So.
Sensei, at the beginning of this conversation, about an hour ago, time is passing so fast, you were beginning to say, Pikiti is great, however, and then I said, wait, Sensei, let's hear your story. Where were you going with that? Would you say Shin Kali is not just exclusive to one form of FMA? Was that, please now, let's hear the other half of that.
Yeah, I have to actually recall. It was more, I don't know what topic we were on.
Well, I started off asking about the name, and then you had went into the Shingadi and that you represent Kali and that, it was representative of what you guys are doing. And then it was so quick, you probably didn't even notice that you had said it. It sounded like you were saying, so here's another way of me asking the question. Are you guys exclusively PTK? Do you encourage other forms of FMA? Do you bring other forms of jiu-jitsu or the kid? Please tell us about your program.
Okay, so again, like I said before, like all styles are great. All martial arts are great, and even with when we study Bikini Tertia, it's fantastic. All the Tuhans, all my teachers, it's an honor for me to always have them and learn from them. I think, I don't know what I was maybe going into when saying that, but in Bikini Tertia, you know, I think maybe I already covered it, where it was like, you know, understanding the differences between the two of like the Trivi and the Doce Metodos.
Okay, got it.
Because a lot of people tend to, like, again, I think they say, you know, this is better than that side, or this Bikini time is better than that time, you know. But in truth, it all relates, you know.
Yeah.
In truth, it's bikini, you know. So um, I see sometimes a lot of comments where people are comparing the names,
Yeah.
you know, of one time to another time, but it's still the same.
Yeah.
You know, someone will, I think it was more recent where it was like Sabayan and Koldamama, you know, and then, you know, it's just a different approach where, you know, Koldamama would be like on a draw, and then Sabayan would be more on a attack, you know. You could say the Kapi Puño and Pangasing, you know, one would focus on the puño and one would focus on the thrust, but it's the same drill, you know. Some people focus more on the names of techniques.
That's right.
But, you know, the drill's the same, but what we focus on, the names could always change. So
that's true.
You could say Cinco Teros or Limang Sugod. You know, it's still 5 attacks. So I think a lot of times when we learn and people think of things on a straight line, on a linear line, it goes through history of martial arts. You know, don't focus on the finger. You know, focus on all, you know, the heavenly glory. You know what Bruce Lee said. It's true. I mean, you can't just be on this one single line. You know, there were so many things that contributed to it. You know, you have to also be able to open up your mind as well. You know, so I think when people are so stuck on it has to be this, I think it only kind of shortens, you know, your mind to explore.
Yes, sir. You know, and part of me, if I was overreading a comment that I actually ended up cutting off on, you know, and you know, and you know what you're saying is just a great point, because we do see that behind the scenes where sometimes knowing the difference in terminology is creating contention between different camps or individuals. And what Jen and I have experienced is that sometimes GT actually called it different things at different points in time. And that, I don't mean to be offensive by that, but that's where some of the discrepancies might be. You know what I'm saying in regards to that? You know, sometimes.
So I think I remember what I was saying with bikini, and then but so what I was going into with that, I think, was that yes, there are times where, you know, with all the groups that are around the world, and all the groups, you know, some would have one view and another view, and then some at the same time kind of, you know, sadly, like the politics of it, you know.
Yeah.
In my mind, in truth, I think all of that, you know, the different views is fine. I think, you know, when you have all these different views, something new will come out of it. So I like to always think positive. You know, that's why I try not to say, okay, this or that. You know, all of it basically is you wanting to learn, you wanting to better yourself.
Yeah.
So when you get, I guess, people where, you know, they want to build off of gossip, for example, it takes away from your learning. You know, I don't get someone walking through my door and saying, so what's the politics about?
Right.
I don't get someone walking in my door and say, you know, I'm looking for a job and be an instructor. You know, I get people walking through my door saying, I want to learn Kali.
Yeah.
And if you love it as much as I do, I'm happy to share it.
Yeah.
So it's not an interview for a job. It's not to become a politician when you walk into a school. You walk into a school because you wanted to learn. I think when you have those differences, and those differences create more gossip, and it grows, the students and the people wanting to learn are the victims to it. And so just train. If you're a civilian that just wants to learn the classical, come and enjoy. If you're a law enforcement person that it can help your job, uh, we'll focus on that. If you're a competitor that wants to fight, we'll focus on that. Us as teachers, we help them achieve their goals.
Yes.
We don't try to drag them into politics.
That's correct.
Or anything like that. I mean, I always think a school, students will come and go. They'll graduate. Some will become alumni and come back. But anyone who helped them, you're a teacher yourself. You help them achieve their goal. You like to think, you got that love and respect from them when they moved on.
That's right.
That's
that's incredibly profound what you're talking about, and I hope people listening kind of meditate on that.
Because for me, when some people, you'll see, I don't expect a student to be with me for the next 50 years. If they are, it's great, but I would think, he graduated.
Yep.
This person's alumni. He's coming back and supporting the school. There's some students that like, okay, Sensei, I've moved on. You graduated, so you wish them well. Go and explore. So I mean, a school always will be a school.
Yeah, it's a transition space for the individual. It's not about even the school. You're a vessel for the people that come through to the school.
I mean, for me, I don't feel I own this martial arts. I don't feel like I own Kali. Kali will be here long after I'm gone. I'm just walking this road or driving the bus that people are getting on. Some will get off. One day I'll stop driving, and then the road will still be there. I think, if I could do my part by carrying what my teachers taught me and sharing that to the next, I think that's a wonderful journey for myself. I never really think, I want Shinkari to be the best of the world. It's not about that. I think, if I could give back what was given to me, knowing that this road will always be there, I made tomorrow, today better than yesterday. So
that's right.
I like to think that, if I had that approach, maybe my students will have that approach, and then their students will have that approach. And yeah, I mean, that's what I hope. So, and I try for. So.
Wow.
Yeah, you hitting it on the mark.
Yes.
Jen and I talked so much. Good parenting is just being a good human being, and it's very similar. You can't possess your children. You can't possess your student. We're here to do our best to fill the void that they're seeking, like you said, to the best of our ability. We do try to encourage students to take this to where they want to become, to take a long road with PTK. But like you said, sometimes people just, they come and go, and they themselves are rediscovering what brings them to your doors in the first place. It meant one thing, and now it's meaning something else as time goes on.
I remember you asked, I think it was about ranking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's why, I know there's some people like, that disagree with rankings completely. Like, oh, this rank, shouldn't be, or should, that person shouldn't have got it. But, for me, I have ranking within Shin Kali. And again, it's based alongside within the PTK tertiary ranks.
Yeah.
But I always feel, again, like like yourself being a teacher, you give students a chance to achieve, a goal, something they could aim for. So, of course, at the end of the day, when we promote someone, you want it to be something earned. You want it to be something that, they strive for and they were able to get. So, I do support uh, helping a student achieve that goal. And then, at the same time, you know, give them that recognition for achieving that rank,
That's right.
So I know there's a lot of us in that practice within FMA. Oh, he's been a student for mine for 20 years. I've never promoted him once, and that's great, maybe because that's the approach of the school, you know. But there's students like, Sensei, I really want to work hard in this. Tell me how you can guide me, and I'll guide you.
Yeah.
And then if you did it, and I'd be so proud to say, okay, you're a Lacan now,
Yeah.
And then there's some students that are all about ranks. They just I want to get my black belt and that's it. And then you never see them again.
Yeah.
And then you think, well, it's also a school, granted that, he graduated, I can't take away, what they learned, but you just wish them the best,
In my experience, the students that come in, like, I just want to learn, they're there longer than there's now. And I'm seeing it more in PTK and all camps where people are coming in like, I want to be an instructor. How can I start a study group? And they're just literally just beginning. And that's okay, but I see the lifespan of those individuals not as long as those who are just initially wanting to learn. And when Jen and I were talking, when we think of all the guests that we've had on this show so far, including Jen and I, none of it was anyone saying, we're doing this just because we want this. It came in with this sincere, I just love this. I want to be surrounded by it. I want to pick it up. Kind of like what you said, where that student's coming at you saying, hey, help me work on this. And you're just like, all right, sure. And I'm saying that as a commentary and to all the listeners out there to just be true and genuine towards bringing you to class in the first place, and making sure you're there for the right reasons, because you're gonna end up staying in it for a longer period of time. Does that make sense, Sensei?
Very true. I mean, I'm still a student, and I mean, many of us, teachers, that want to continuously learn. We're all on that journey, and to see future students, to have that same approach, to have that same manner, like, I want to continue learning. I want to, I just want to learn as much as I possibly can. They're there, and you can only be grateful when they are there.
Yeah.
Then I'll have students, that might not have the time. Their heart is there.
This is
but
true.
Maybe their job is like, I can only come once a month, Sensei, or maybe once every 2 months. But you still see that, that commitment, that love that's there. So again, you'll have so many different variables in a school.
Yeah.
I hope the majority is the people that want to learn it and love it as much as you.
That's
but
true.
You'll get people that from all angles.
Exactly.
Some people that want to just learn and then leave.
Yeah.
Some that want to stay. But at the end of the day, being a teacher, you want to, no matter what your goal is, you want to be able to help them get their goal. So, I wouldn't think, oh, this person is just using me to get recognition, and then he's gonna kind of, say, the hell with you later. If that's the case, then it's just kind of a pity that person goes out in the world with that attitude.
Yeah.
But they're there. So you never try to let that manner of thinking weigh you down. You keep moving forward. You try to keep more positive. I don't need to carry negativity with me. I like to think more positive, where positive people will all kind of move on forward. So,
Right.
I had a quick question. She's been having a question. I've been interrupting her this whole time. When a student wants to come in and they want to learn for competing, cage, UFC, MMA, does it carry over? Do you find the Kali translates over well into that arena? That was my last question.
Yeah, no, I mean, say for example, like Sensei Fi.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sensei Fi if he's listening.
Yep.
I think he is. So they just came back from Korea, Sensei Fi and Sensei Ridey. Such a, they did a wonderful job teaching empty hands out there. That, for example, when they went out to Korea and did the Panantukan, we'll have things that we do within Shin Kali that will carry over, like things that, Sensei Fi was exposed to, that he learned, that, he's like, oh, that's actually a very good approach. And he would also use that, in some of the things that, he would coach, with some of his fighters that go over professionally. Yeah. So there are things that carry over. I wouldn't say you would have a complete,
right,
edge impact carryover, but footwork, principles of parrying, principles of jamming, your highs and lows attacks. There are principles that do relate.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's just good. I just wanted you to brag for a minute, Sensei. It's just good to hear that there's representation out there.
And then at the same time, when some students who are not professional fighters,
right,
they might just teach English for their daily job, but they want to fight. So you also, you don't be light with them and say, okay, this is how it would be. No, you would teach them, guide them, and actually put them in that situation of how it would be.
Yeah.
So, for example, when we would go to the Philippines and we would, when we would fight, we would help the guys on the corner. We would coach them along the way, give them water, tell them like, okay, this person is moving more to the right, moving more to the left. Okay, he's dropping down to the leg, so do a 180 back, swing around. So you'd have that same coaching. When we spar in class, I would be talking to the students, like yelling constantly, like one or two or some kind of technique, and the students will listen to me. So when we did go to the Philippines, they could still catch me when I'm speaking, like on the side.
Practiced.
So you get that, you get that opportunity to, to catch that kind of training.
Mm-hmm.
So you do your best. Like if some students want to compete or fight, if some students just want to learn the forms and do classical, that's fine. If some people want to just help at their job, that's fine. So you do your best to help all those students to achieve what they need to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Right. And speaking of learning, and you also mentioned that that you're still a student. I think that's the number one thing that every teacher has to be: someone who remains and dedicates himself to being a student. Is there anything that you're either working on, whether it's to teach or to learn? Is there anything in particular that you're kind of moving into in your training?
Actually, right now, all of it's is pretty much the same process of like learning and teaching step by step. But I was talking to Shin Kid the other day, and I was like, I'm doing a grappling 64. I'm going to experiment with that. I'm going to crash in here and see where I could be on a takedown or a lock, or someone locking me or trying to control me. To do a grappling 64, people might think you're kind of whack for that or outrageous for that. But, no, I know the form of the 64. I'm very happy to have learned it. But, you want to explore it.
Yeah.
I want someone to crash in on that 64 with me and get me in a lock. And I want to be able to counter it and recounter my contradas and recontradas, so so maybe you might see a grappling 64 out of us.
I'm looking forward to it, Sensei. Hey, we'll be the first one supporting it and promoting it, good brother.
I mean, for example, another one was the cicadas. We learned the cicadas hitting high and low, and I want to explore doing a counter to a cicadas. contradas to a Cicadas.
Yeah.
So when someone was aiming on that Cicadas to try to hit me, you know, I do a contradas to it. You know, pick one of the 12 contradas and work from there. You know, yeah, it's all part of that journey, I think. You know, and you wanna give it a go.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
Sensei, any final thoughts, words to the PTK martial arts community? Any wisdom you want to impart on us, sir?
yeah, I think one of the questions when I saw some of the videos that you had prior, you know, you were saying like how to bring that Pikiti tertiary community together.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wanted to add on to it, you know,
Please
and I
do.
knew our interview was coming up. You know, one, of course, support all your Tuhans. Support every single Tuhan that's out there. They all had special times with GT, and much love to GT as well. I look forward to even seeing him soon when I get a chance to. A lot of the things that we hear that's kind of always going around, and you know, it's I like to say this from the heart. You don't want something as great as Pikiti Tertia to be known for the fighting between groups or communities. And a way to kind of contribute it or to kind of stop it, it all starts from us.
Yes.
It all starts from us. It's our attitudes that kind of where it starts from. So like for this, for example, you putting me on here is such an honor. You reaching out to all the people in the community, and my message to everyone in the community is to, you know, within yourself, let's start with you. You know, extend that hand out. You know, welcome people. You know, each and every one of us have something to contribute of what we learned in Pikiti. A different approach, a different exchange of technique or exploration of how you saw it. So starting with you or yourself, you know, have that manner to extend your hand to your brother.
Yeah.
You know, don't worry about what this person said or this person said. You know, when you come face to face, say hello. You know, have that positive attitude within yourself, and then grow from there. So, so to everyone, I'm very grateful. Thank you so much, of course, for having me. You know, if you're ever in Japan, feel free to contact me. My doors are always open. You know,
Sensei, outside of social media, is there another way that folks can reach you? And I'll add that information on the YouTube page. Is there a website or an email that we could provide?
like shinkali.com or info@shinkali.com.
Okay,
That's me directly. You know, everything that you see at Shinkali, that's all the stuff that I kind of manage myself. It's funny because when we first started, people actually thought my name was Shin. And they were like, "Hello, Shin. How are you, Shin?" And I'm like, "Who is Shin?" You know. So, but Shin Kali is the name of the school, and anything that you see of Shin Kali, that's pretty much me managing it.
Yeah.
So info@shinkali.com or shinkali.com. That's on me. I welcome anyone dropping me an email. That's completely fine. I do the shirts, for example, that you're wearing.
Yeah.
I had so many people always ask me like, "Oh, we love your shirts. We want to, you know, get your shirts." If you notice, there's a site I put like IMMAfighter.com.
I've noticed that. Yep.
That one is kind of like a play on words. You know, you had the MMA part, but then it's like, I'm a fighter.
Right.
So many people wanted the shirts, and from time to time, I enjoy just kind of making little designs. So that's why I made that IMAfighter.com, where it was just, you know, in general, just designs that I'd send out, and if people liked it, they were more than welcome to get it. But because of that feedback from all our shirts, that's why I made that one site. So if you see that, that's also a way you can contact me too.
Okay. Go check out. And you know, Sensei E put together a flyer to come live on this show in like one night.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to catch up on my marketing and for this live stream, and then one day you put together something that is going to change our game. So you have a great visual sense, brother. We thank you tremendously for
Yes,
taking
thank
the
you.
time and coming out. Royce from Nomad Kali, he's made a couple of comments just supporting what you do. He's met you before, and he wants to shout out Sensei Rod. We want to thank the viewer as well for participating. What you close with, Sensei, is what this is really all about. An opportunity for the community to step up and be more proactive in bringing us together. There's so much beautiful things about PTK. So thank you. Our very best to your group, all the senseis, Brother Yoshi, Brother Rod, and everybody from Shin Kali. We send our love from Philadelphia.
Yes.
And that being said, yeah, go, sir.
Yeah, and my love to you guys as well. All you guys from Brooklyn League, Philadelphia, Florida, man, you guys are strong, and you guys are in our hearts as well. I mean, I think you have soon enough 2 on Eric visiting you guys.
He's coming in August, bro, by the elites. Yep.
Have a fantastic time with him if you get a chance. Be there for 2 on Eric. His knowledge is also incredible. I have my seminar in Osaka coming up in 2 weeks. If you're in the area in Osaka, please come down as well. So, but if you ever make it on your way to Japan, please, invitations to you guys, you and Lukaku or Jenna, if you're on your way to the Philippines or on your way back from the Philippines, stop over. If I'm there, if I'm not, we'd love to have you here as well.
We would love to do that. Jen and I, we travel as much as we can. We suffer for it behind closed doors, but it's worth meeting this PTK community. So we might be in Japan one day, brother. Sensei, hang on. Jen and I are going to close out, but we'll still be able to catch up with you once we end the broadcast. We want to thank everybody again for tuning in. We're going to close out of this episode of People Talking Kali. Loyalty, wisdom, respect.
Life, health, and success.
Thanks again.